Everything we do is going to be about winning. Okay, we're going to learn to do things the right way, and that's the only way we're going to do them. Because if it doesn't help us, we're not doing it, man. That's just as simple as it gets. Win the Super Bowl.
That's good.
I mean it, too. You know, one of the things that the only reason you become a head coach in this league, in my opinion, is to win. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you do it for any other reason, you're wrong.
Hey football fans, welcome to the Washington Command Center. So today, I'm just here to give Commanders fans some hope and talk about some reasons or ways we can come out of this Philly game with a dub to make this new era of Washington football an era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. What better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the first, the real, the OG Washington Command Center, so you can find your way back for some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. And while you're at it, ring that bell, hit that like button. It's free to do, and it means a lot. Okay, so I know there's a lot of doom and gloom going into this game. Philly is looking like a juggernaut. We're coming off a tough loss to a team Philly handled pretty well in week 1. I know people like to buy into the transitive property, you know, Team A beats Team B and Team B beats Team C, so Team A is going to be, you know, beat Team C. But this is the NFL, and styles make fights. Coming into the season, everyone already crowned Philly for all the moves, you know, they made in the offseason, and they're definitely looking the part so far. But what did Philly really improve over last season? Yes, Jalen Hurts has taken a considerable step forward as a passer. They added a legit wide receiver 1 in A.J. Brown. They added a high-end cornerback in James Bradbury, but he's really not setting the world on fire through the first 2 weeks. And it shouldn't get any better for him this week, given that Terry has continually gotten the better of him in their meetings. They added Hassan Reddick, who's supposed to be a high-end pass rusher, and he doesn't have a single pressure yet this season. Safety, C.J. Johnson, Gardner Johnson. You know, he's not playing that great either. He's allowed 7 of the 10 targets that have come his way to be caught for about 9 yards apiece. So he's not doing great. They got a rookie first-round pick, Jordan Davis, nose tackle. You know, he's making an average impact at best, but he's only playing a little over 30% of defensive snaps, and he's only got 2 tackles and an assist to show for it. Yeah, he's doing some other things, you know, helping making it easier on the linebackers, but he's only in there about 30% of defensive snaps. So that's about all the extra glitz and glamour Philly's added, you know, since last season. Jalen, that big step up, and AJ have been the only real clear noticeable upgrade in my opinion. Everything else is getting slightly overrated. Their O-line was just as strong last year when we played them. Their D-line, you know, minus Davis and Riddick, that, like I said, haven't made a huge impact, you know, quite yet, was just as strong. Their D-line was just as strong. When we played them last year, the biggest difference between last year and this year is definitely in our favor. When we played them last year in Week 15 and Week 17, completely different teams. Week 15, they were coming off of a bye. Fully rested, healthy. They're only missing Brandon Graham and Isaac Samala, you know, who had been on the IR pretty much all season. And Landon Dickerson had already pretty much grabbed the baton from Brandon Brooks. So Brandon Brooks being on the IR wasn't even a big deal because they had kind of already moved on from him. So they were missing 2 players that they had been missing all year when we first played them. In week 15 when we played them, we were missing Sam Cosmi, Chase Royer, Wes Schweitzer, J.D. McKissick, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel. Yes, we've been missing him all year, but it didn't help. Benjamin St. Juste. We were missing Chase. Joey Slye was out. We even had to sign Garret Gilbert off the Pats practice squad because Heinicke and Kyle Allen were out for COVID that week. We also had 7 assistant coaches that mixed. This was the game they had to move back for us to play, and we still had all those players out. Those were actual injuries. Players out except for the quarterbacks. We had Garret Gilbert at the helm. And even with that, Philly only beat us by 10. Everybody's talking like Philly's going to beat us by 40 tomorrow. They only beat us by 10 before their little couple additions when we had pretty much our whole starting offense out and half our defense. Like, I don't understand what the jump from last year to this year is. Yes, they have a top-tier wide receiver now. Jalen's gotten a little better, but they beat us by 10 with Garret Gilbert. Week 17, when we played them, they were still missing Graham and Isaac. Brandon Graham and Isaac. Plus Miles Sanders was out. We got Heinicke back, but we still didn't have Logan, McKissick, Curtis Samuel, Wes Schweitzer, Chase Royer, Ben St. Juste, Chase Young, or Cosmi. On top of that, we lost Gibby, Eric Flowers, Landon Collins, Montez Sweat, William Jackson III, Tyler Larson was out, Hudson, the backup linebacker, was out, DeShazer Everett was out, and even Daryl Roberts, the corner we signed to, step in, even he was out. We were basically into 3rd and 4th string on both our offensive line and secondary in exactly the same linebacker situation that we're in right now, with only Holcomb and Jamin Davis being healthy at that point, them being the starters now. So we're the same position there with our linebacker group. Far more went wrong than it did in week 15. Far more quality players out, but we had better quarterback play from Heinicke, and they only beat us by 4. Just think about that list of players I just named, and they only beat us by 4. Logan, McKissick, Curtis Samuel, Wes Schweitzer, Chase Royer, Ben St. Juste, Chase, Cosmi, Gibby, Flowers, Collins, Sweat, William Jackson III, Larson, Hudson, Everett, Roberts. We were scraping the bottom of the barrel, and they beat us by 4. Since then, yes, they've had their upgrades, but we've had a massive upgrade at the quarterback position. Anybody who doesn't admit now that we have massively upgraded at quarterback is a fool. Wentz is worlds above Heinicke. Love Heinicke, great guy, love the story, but it's true. Carson Wentz is way better. Now, we still don't have Royer, but at least Wes Schweitzer's back. We have Schweitzer for the game. And even as bad as our offensive line started out last week, we still have that pair of former Pro Bowlers at guard, and then Leno and Cosmi at tackle, and Schweitzer at center. That line is galaxies away from whatever we cobbled together in week 17 of last year, when even backups like Zach Bailey that we signed, he ended up being out for COVID. So I don't even know who we ended up starting at guard in week 17. Now we actually have Curtis Samuel, Logan, Gibby, and JD, who could make a huge, they could have made a huge difference last year. Now we have them all back. They only saw Gibby once last year, and he's in almost a completely different, more impactful role this year. Now, not only do they have to contend with all the playmakers they didn't see last year because the injuries or COVID, we got new ones to go along with them, like Jahan. Hopefully, like Armani Rogers. Hopefully, we'll see him or Cole Turner too. Defensively, as bad as we looked last week, William Jackson III is still better than whatever we scraped out of the barrel last year for when we played him in week 17. Derek Forrest has shown to be a huge upgrade. He's playing. We get Cam Curl back. And we actually have Sweat this time. We didn't have him last time. So, for as bad as it might look, I think we've upgraded more than they have. Especially when looking from, the last time we met. To only beat Heinicke and a bunch of guys off the streets by 4 points. To go from that to now facing the full might of this Carson Wentz-led offense and a very less banged-up defense, I really think we have a chance to win this game. At least a lot more of a chance than anyone has given us credit for. I know, Jack Del Rio and this defense as a whole gets a lot of flack for struggling against mobile quarterbacks, and they do. But I think if they can stay disciplined and contain Hurts, we can easily beat these guys in a shootout. Jalen only has one TD pass so far. And he also has one interception to go along with that touchdown pass. So as much as he's taken a step up in passing, if we can make him one-dimensional, we can beat him. Again, I know that's a tall task, and I know, their line, they have a hell of a run game, even without Jalen doing the legwork. But it can be done. Tampa Bay did it last year. Tampa Bay held them to 95 yards on the ground and 244 passing. And a lot of the run game is predicated on the threat of Jalen. So if we can contain Jalen, I think it'll make them more predictable, and it'll definitely slow that down. And we're counting out the fact Ron has a lot of experience with mobile quarterbacks. So, he coached Cam Newton for all that time. He knows what needs to be done. Our defense just needs to execute. Having Curl and Forrest on the field together, I think, will be a huge boost. Having another next level defender to help out in the run. Curl's really good against the run. Derek Forrest has been looking great. Now we got a nice tandem of safeties out there. And I think regardless of how he's supposed to be against the run, I think David Mayo shouldn't touch the field. I know that's supposed to be his thing, but by all means, keep David Mayo off the field. Jamin's speed is much needed. He's got the wheels to spy Jalen if needed. We need to keep Jamin on the field, tough it out, hug it out, keep him on the field. Now, Casey Toohill is out, and James Smith-Williams is questionable, but I think this gives us an opportunity to get more speed on the field, because Shaka Toney, he had a little bit of an illness last week, but he's good to go now. Put Shaka Toney out there. And I think that tapping into Sweat and Shaka Toney's athleticism, that could be the best thing to do to make sure they set the edge and contain Jalen Hurts. Put those fast edge rushers out there. Make sure they set that edge. And then rely on Allen Payne and a blitzing Jamin Davis up the middle for all your pressure. Just get all your pressure up the middle and keep Jalen contained. It also might be like counterintuitive for a team with such a strong run game, but I really don't want to see any three linebacker sets. I honestly wouldn't mind if we stayed in dime all game. That might sound dumb, but we don't have linebackers that can take on blockers anyway. So put guys on the field fast and agile enough to get around them quicker. I don't know. That's just my thinking of it. I just wanted to give us a little optimism here. Just break this down pretty quick. And it might not be some perfectly laid out game plan or keys to victory presentation. I just think we've got way more of a chance than anyone's given us. And I firmly stand behind the fact that we are the more improved team since the last time we played them. And I think that for everybody's out there with that doom and gloom, there's no reason to cash out on the season after a loss against a tough team, or even 2 losses against tough teams. No matter what happens this week or what happened last week, this season, I feel, is going to give us plenty to cheer for in this new era of Washington football. An era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. There's no better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the Washington Command Center so you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. While you're at it, remember to hit that like button, ring that bell, and if you listen this long, I love y'all. Peace.